Good evening. I'll call to order the Newport Beach City Council meeting of October 12, 2016. Madam Clerk, may we have the roll call?
The record will reflect that all members of council are present.
Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mayor Pro Tem Muldoon, followed by the invocation by Reverend Cindy Voorhees of St. James the Great Episcopal Church.
Gracious God, we give thanks for this wonderful city that we live in of Newport Beach. We thank you for our new police chief, John Lewis. Keep him and all our service personnel safe as they traverse our city. Give them wisdom as they encounter conflict and quick resolution when need be. We ask for wisdom as this council and this city evaluates campaign reform. We ask for wisdom and discernment as that moves forward. We also ask for guidance as we address the homelessness in our city. Help those that are in the trenches, that roll up their sleeves to do the best they can, and for us to have openness and willing hearts to help those in need. We ask all this so that our city is welcoming to the human person. Amen.
We have three proclamations to be presented and read this evening. The first one will be for a proclamation for National Library Week, and Mr. Jerry King and Tim Hetherington, our Library Services Director, are here. I will read the proclamation. Whereas libraries play a critical role in supporting the quality of life in Newport Beach, and whereas libraries are changing in dynamic places, providing free access for all to books, computers, digital entertainment, and information resources they need to learn, work, and enjoy life in the 21st century. And whereas libraries are places for opportunity that encourage literacy and change lives, and whereas libraries bring the community a world of knowledge and entertainment, both in person and online, by providing programs that promote cultural enrichment, lifelong learning, and technological enrichment, and libraries transform learning, inspire dreams, and make a difference in lives. And libraries preserve and promote local history. And libraries and library supporters across America are celebrating National Library Week. I therefore, Diane Brooks Dixon, Mayor of the City of Newport Beach, do hereby proclaim the week of April 10 through 16, 2016, as National Library Week at your local library, and encourage all our residents to take advantage of the wonderful library resources available in our community and the special programs planned for National Library Week at the Newport Beach Public Library.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. I appreciate your continued support. And if I could say one thing, it's that libraries do transform, whether it's a kid learning how to read or an adult in our literacy program, or a student coming to study for a big exam, or someone doing a job search, or just simply enjoying a good book. We're really making a difference in people's lives. And I think that the city, our leadership has always provided the ability for us to do that well. And our residents really appreciate the effort. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Want the library board members up there with you? Tim?
Okay, the next proclamation is to designate April as Donate Life Month. And here representing Ambassador One Legacy, Mr. John Whalen, Lisa Pedral, and Dr. Omegan from Hoag Hospital. All right, let me read the proclamation. Whereas organ, tissue, marrow, and blood donation are life-giving acts recognized worldwide as expression of compassion to those in need. And whereas more than 121,000 individuals nationwide and more than 21,000 in California are currently on the National Organ Transplant waiting list on average, 22 people die each day while waiting due to the shortage of donated organs. And whereas the need for donated organs is especially urgent in Hispanic and African American communities, and whereas more than 600,000 units of blood per year are needed to meet the need in California, and whereas at any given time 6,000 patients are in need of volunteer marrow donors, whereas a single individual's donation of the heart, lung, liver, kidneys, and pancreas and small intestine can save up to 8 lives. Donation of tissue can save and heal the lives of up to 50 others, and a single blood donation can help 3 people in need. And whereas millions of lives each year are saved and healed by donors of organs, tissues, marrow, and blood, and the spirit of giving and decision to donate are not restricted by age or medical condition, and whereas over 12 million Californians have signed up with the state-authorized Donate Life California Donor Registry to ensure their wishes to be organ and tissue donors are honored, and whereas California residents can sign up with the Donate Life California Registry when applying for or renewing their driver's license or ID cards at the Department of Motor Vehicles, now therefore be it resolved that I, Diane Brooks Dixon, Mayor of the City of Newport Beach, on behalf of the entire Newport Beach City Council, do hereby proclaim April 2016 as DMV Donate Life California Month in the City of Newport Beach. And we encourage all Californians to check yes when applying for or renewing their driver's license or ID card, and by signing up at www.vidacalifornia.org. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am a physician at Hoag Hospital and also a resident of Newport Beach. My name is Rosemary Omegan, and I'd like to, from the bottom of my heart, thank the Mayor and the members of the Newport Beach Council for their very strong support of organ, eye, and tissue donation. This is a tremendously important program for all of us, and I really appreciate the opportunity to work with some of the council members and the hospital, particularly in recognition of those people's families and the donors who are from our hospital. I would also encourage everybody in this room to become educated about organ, eye, and tissue donation. It's really, really important, because without this, there would not be any transplantation opportunities. And now Mr. John Whalen is a testament to the success of the program, so I'd like to introduce him. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Whalen. My life was saved on February 27, 2013. I'm a liver transplant recipient. I had a genetic deficiency which caused my liver to fail. I was very thankful that my donor Jason was a registered organ donor. He lived in the state of Arizona. So at his time of passing, they honored his wishes and they shared his organs not only with me, but with 6 or 7 other people. So he's a true hero. It's very scary when you find out you need an organ transplant. As Mayor Dixon said, you know, there's so many people on the transplant list waiting, so many people in California, that it's great that you make this proclamation to bring awareness, the importance of registering. In the state of California, 96% of us Californians agree or support organ donation, but only 40% register. So we get the word out. It's really great to get more people to be interested in registering. Thank you very much, Mayor Dixon and the City Council, for this proclamation. On behalf of Donate Life, One Legacy, and myself, I really thank you. Thank you very much.
And our third and last proclamation, designating May as Mental Health Awareness Month. And here we to present to Patricia Newton and Amy Packer, board members of Extraordinary Lives Foundation. And I'll read the proclamation. Whereas 57 million Americans have a mental disorder in any given year, and whereas only 41% of adults in the United States with a mental health condition received mental health services in the past year, among adults with a serious mental illness, 62.9% received mental health services in the past year. And whereas just over half of children aged 8 to 15 received mental health services in the previous year. And whereas nearly 2/3 of all people with a diagnosable mental illness do not receive mental health management due to stigma, lack of community-based resources, inadequate diagnosis, or no diagnosis, and whereas there is a need to improve public awareness of mental illness and to strengthen local and national awareness of brain diseases so that all of those with mental illness may receive adequate and appropriate treatment that will result in their becoming fully functioning members of society. Now, therefore, I, Diane Brooks Dixon, Mayor of the City of Newport Beach, on behalf of the entire Newport Beach City Council, do hereby proclaim May 2016 as National Mental Health Awareness Month in Newport Beach to enhance public awareness of mental illness.
My name is Patricia Newton, and this is Amy Packer. We're on the board of Extraordinary Lives Foundation. Our nonprofit organization is committed to raising awareness of mental health issues with an emphasis on children and adolescents. I would like to thank Mayor Dixon and the City of Newport Beach for inviting us tonight and for being one of the first of a growing number of cities in Orange County for proclaiming May as National Mental Health Awareness Month. Youth mental health challenges have been stigmatized for far too long, and it's time for change. Our foundation will host an inaugural fun-filled high-five-a-thon on Saturday, May 7th at Laguna Beach High School track from 9 to 12 p.m. Proceeds from this event will be allocated for the development of child and adolescent mental health care facility planned by Chalk Children's and Mission Hospital Laguna Beach. You may be surprised to know that there are no psychiatric beds for children under the age of 12 in Orange County. Parents of children in crisis must go to Los Angeles or San Diego as their closest options.
This community event encourages participants of all ages to come together and give high fives in support of mental health awareness with opportunities to win great raffle prizes. Our DJ, Julian Miranda, will MC the celebration with young and upcoming musical friends. There will also be a kids zone including balloons, tattoos, and outdoor games. Information booths will be on site with representatives from Chalk, Mission Hospital, UCI Child Development School, Animal Health Foundation, CHAD, and more. Snacks and drinks will be available for purchase. Registration is at our website, el.foundation. If you register by April 15th, you'll also receive a t-shirt of the event. Everyone who registers gets a raffle ticket. Please join us in supporting our community and celebrating Mental Health Awareness Month on May 7th.
Madam Clerk.
Notice to the public. The city provides a yellow sign-in card to assist in the preparation of the minutes. The completion of the card is not required in order to address the city council. If the optional sign-in card has been completed, it should be placed in the box provided at the podium. The City Council of Newport Beach welcomes and encourages community participation. Public comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per person to allow everyone to speak. Written comments are encouraged as well. The City Council has a discretion to extend or shorten the time limit on agenda or non-agenda items. As a courtesy, please turn cell phones off or set them in the silent mode. Now is the time for City Council announcements.
Are there any public comments? Seeing none. City Council announcements. I'm going to start on the right this evening. Mr. Piotr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to make an announcement for Corona Del Mar's annual town meeting. Annual town meeting is once a year, guys. It's coming up on April 20th. It's from 5 to 7:30. It deals with issues like traffic, which we all would love to talk about to endless times, water, trees, things like that. We've got members of staff and members of community organizations that will be there from 5 to 6 for residents to come and ask questions for. And then we actually have a panel where we will talk about the CDM bypass and other traffic issues with our speakers from 6 to 7:30. So everybody's welcome. Come on down. There is no charge for the event. We'd love to see you.
Thank you. Mr. Duffield.
Is there going to, I was hoping for a picture. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. All right, so this is a good thing, fun thing, something that's, that nobody could possibly not enjoy. It's a, so the history of it real fast is that we built a new bridge many years ago, and in the process we had to move a monument that designated the beginning of commerce in our city, McFadden's Wharf, to across the street, opposite side of the Coast Highway inland. So we built the bridge, and then many, many years went by, and nobody sort of gotten forgotten. It was still there, but just was hidden, and this monument is a very, very important, cool thing that should be more exposed. So I can't not take credit for this. I wish I could, but my pal Gary Hill rides his bike by it every day and kept saying to me, Duffy, why in the heck is this thing where it is? Nobody can see it. And we researched it a little bit, and turns out that I already told you why it was moved and so on and so forth. So I went, because I am now a city council person, I went to feel like I felt like I could do something. And so I called over there, went over there, and it was Carol Jacobs was awesome. She met us, Gary and Carol and I all met at the site, and we were going to choose where it could possibly go. So we just thought they were going to lift it up and put it over there, and it weighs as much as the earth. It's this big stone thing, and I figured, well, that's not going to be easy. But so a couple of months went by because of the sewer pipe and, you know, all the oh my gosh, ripping it up. Thought that would never end. Finally it ended, and lo and behold, this last week, to my surprise, I was looking, and there was a footing poured, and then an erection of this incredible brick structure, and I realized this is going to be for the new monument. And so lo and behold, it was finished yesterday, I believe, and Mike Pisani, who never gets any credit for much, the mod department, this is the people who actually do the work. You know, he and his crew did a bang-up job. This is very professional looking. It's landscaped. It looks great. I hope you all get to see it. It's at the base of the bridge as you go south, and it is right at the entrance to Bay Shores. So it has to do with the McFadden family starting the first wharf. And real fast, a brave captain decided that he would come into our harbor that had no entrance. It was just a little opening at high tide with 5,000 pounds of shingles and 5,000 pounds of lumber, and try to get over this sandbar that was in front of Balboa Island and make its way to the land, which happens to be where this monument is. And lo and behold, it worked. So the McFadden brothers built a dock, and they started the first commercial business in our city. And that lasted about 8 years. And then they bought over, we all know, the McFadden Wharf, which is the Newport Pier. But in the meantime, it's wonderful. This monument is there. It describes the whole thing. And someday, if you're walking along there and you see it, you'll know that's where this whole place started. So again, I thank the staff, our city manager, Carol and Mike, everybody who was involved with it. It's just really cool. I think you guys will get a kick out of it when you drive by. Thanks.
In 1870, it says on it.
1870, yes.
Yes, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
What do you think the dock tax was back then? I like to agendize for a future presentation. I like to invite, at least, whether it's agendized on the calendar or the study session, leave it up to you, Mr. Kiff, the Heroes Hall, which is a veterans museum at Orange County Fair, to present. They're raising funds from neighboring cities. It's relatively small amounts, and obviously we have many Newport Beach veterans, including my own grandfather, United States Navy Lieutenant Edward Muldoon, and I think that Newport should play a part in helping this museum. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Selge.
I have no items.
Mr. Curry. Mr. Petros. All right. Madam Clerk. Oh, wait. I have some announcements. I was too quick. Okay. I have several. Excuse me. All right. The first announcement I was going to make was about Library Week, but the proclamation really explained that well. But I do want to say on some of the fun programs that are taking place, and I think Mr. Kiff and Mr. Petros are doing what I did this morning, and I read to story time at the Balboa Library this morning, and it's really a fun thing to do with the little kids that are very energetic and interested, and our library staff provide such a wonderful program. Not only do I enjoy doing that because I really like to see the happiness in kids and reading to them, but they became my surrogate grandchildren because my grandchildren live in New York City, my toddler grandchildren. So it was really fun. I do want to say that there are some really fun programs that the Library Week is offering. The library staff has put together at the Balboa Branch Library Thursday at 3:30. Let's Make Comics. And a highly regarded professional cartoonist and comic book artist, Javier Hernandez, will give a live demonstration on storytelling through cartoons. In addition, there are all of our branch libraries are special programs. I highly recommend going to the Newport Beach Library website and seeing the great programs that are going on. And special thanks to our residents and Mr. Kiff and Mr. Petros for reading to the children. I think that's a lot of fun. Number 2, the Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation. I have joined mayors from across the United States in the 5th Annual Wyland Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation. The contest runs from April 1 through April 30th, and each participating city, including Newport Beach, is in a friendly competition to see who can conserve the most water and energy during the month. Cities with the highest percentage of residents who take the challenge, it's just a matter of signing up and committing to it, in their population category win. Participants in the winning cities are then eligible to win hundreds of prizes, so please sign up. Also on April 21st, the city is hosting a free class for residents to learn how to transform their landscapes into California-friendly gardens. The class will be held over here in the community room from 6 to 9 p.m., Thursday, April 21st. Reservations are required. Visit watersmartnewport.org or call the city main number 949-644-3195 for more information. And then serving as mayor, I do a lot of different things in the community, and during the day I memorize the council manual, but there are a lot of other fun things to do. And last week, or on March 31st, was Youth in Government Day at City Hall. This is a wonderful program with our Newport Join. We do in conjunction with Newport Mesa, our 2 high schools. About 40 students participated in an all-morning session. We started off in the community room, and then they were all assigned individually in groups to each of the department heads, the city manager, and the city clerk, and the city attorney, and then myself. And it culminated a few hours later where we actually conducted a city council meeting sitting here with 5 city council members, and these are outstanding students who have an interest in future civic leadership in our community, and it was truly a fun day and an inspiring day to see their high school students and interest in our civic leadership in the community. And last but not least, I'll stand up to show you. Somebody has to do these things. So I went to Painted Orange at the beach at Balboa Pier on Sunday, and this is what I got. For the Mighty Ducks. Go Ducks. As they were actually playing, they had a giant screen TV, where they were playing the Washington Capitals game at 4:30. There were probably 500 more people there, fun and games, and just a lot of enthusiasm for the Ducks. So I was happy to be there and represent the city and welcome the fans to Newport Beach. There are a lot of Ducks fans in Newport Beach, so I was happy to salute them. And I think, pardon me?
And players.
And players and management, yes, but they were all in Washington, D.C. So, but we had a great time. For all those who came, thank you very much. And I think that's it for my announcements. Thank you.
This is the time in which council members may pull items from the consent calendar for discussion, items 1 through 17. Public comments are invited on consent calendar for members of the audience. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes before speaking. Please state your name for the record. If any item is removed from the consent calendar by a council member, members of the public are invited to speak on each item for up to 3 minutes per item. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine and will all be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. Council members have received detailed staff reports on each of the items recommending an action. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the City Council votes on the motion unless members of the City Council request specific items to be discussed and are removed from the consent calendar for separate action.
Do we have any public comments on the consent calendar?
Mayor Dixon and members of the council, my name is Jim Mosier, and I have a great deal I would like to say about item number 5, which is a series of proposed modifications to the city's records retention policy. But given the time restraints, I think I'll be doing well if I can make just 2 points about it. The first is to clarify the comment that I made at your last study session about the copyright issue. And for that purpose, I've asked the city clerk to show a couple of slides I submitted yesterday. The first of these slides is from another agency, and it shows what the public there sees online when the records retention schedule is proposed to be updated. The copy you're looking at there may be a little small, but it's the actual records retention schedule. It identifies the documents, it says where they're kept, it says how long they're kept, and in what form. And when changes are proposed, they're clearly indicated as you see there in the blue. By contrast, the next slide, if we can have the next slide, shows what the public saw online the last time the records retention schedule was updated in Newport Beach. It's a blank page, and it's probably a little hard to see from the audience, but it says that in Newport Beach, the schedule can't be and never can be posted, and because doing so would violate the copyright of the consultant who helped us to prepare it. Mind you, this is the same consultant, and it's the same document imaging system as at the other agency. To me, it's unconscionable to allow a private outside party to manipulate in this way the public's access to one of the most fundamental of public documents, the one that says which documents we keep and which ones we toss. If I were you, I would tell the consultant that we're going to ignore their copyright claim, or we're going to look for a new consultant, or both. The second point I want to make is about the second part of the consent calendar item 5 action, which is some staff recommended revisions to the city's policy called A18 on audio and video recordings of the council and committee meetings. That policy does need to be revised, but the revisions it needs are your guidance to staff to insist that all those recordings be readily available through the city's website, as is the case in most other cities. In Newport Beach, only the Planning Commission audio recordings are posted on the internet, and the once prominent council meeting videos have recently been hidden away from view at obscure links that very few people can find in the city's massive document imaging system. To me, that is just as shameful as the copyright issue, and I hope that this council will use its policy-making power to correct those oversights. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments on the consent calendar? Seeing none, let's bring it back to council. We'll start over. Mr. Petros.
Madam Mayor, while I won't pull it, I would just point out that item 12, we are engaging in a cooperative agreement with OCTA for a multi-million-dollar traffic signal synchronization project along Coast Highway. And while I applaud this project for what it will do for our residents and make mobility along Coast Highway all the better, I do want to make sure everybody realizes because of the lack of funds at the state level, Newport Beach is paying $450,000 to participate in this, to fix signals on a state facility. We are doing the state's job. So I just want, it is something necessary. It's something we need to do for the benefit of our residents. But please know that in this case, I believe the state has failed their obligations to maintain their facilities.
Thank you, Mr. Petros. Mr. Curry.
No items to pull, but I missed a meeting in February, and I had to go back online to watch the meeting that I missed and some of the issues that were discussed there. I think Mr. Mosier actually has a point. We made it somewhat more difficult to find our videos, so we'll see if we can clean up the links on our website to make that easier. Thank you.
Right, Mr. Selich.
No items.
Mr. Piotr. Mr. Duffield.
I need to recuse myself on item 7 and item 12 because my business is right there.
And Mayor Pro Tem. All right, may we have a motion?
Yes.
Before you move that, staff had a couple of clarifications.
Yes.
Your permission. On item 15, our recommendation is that the ENA's term be 9 months instead of 1 year. And then secondly, you just noting for the record that you have a substitute resolution on item 5. And that's before you on the dais.
How about 7? Is that just a quick clarification?
7 is just, I'm sorry, did I miss one? Small typo on that one. Sorry about that.
That's it. So I move the balance of consent calendar, items 1 through 17, with clarifications on items 5, 7, and 15 from staff. And a recuse on items 7 and 12 from Councilman Duffield for financial reasons.
Second.
All right, so we will vote on items except for 7 and, or does Mr. Duffield have to?
Yes, he votes, but he's recusing himself on item 7 and 12.
12.
Councilmember Duffield.
All right.
Prior to reading the vote, I'll read the ordinance title for item 3, ordinance number 2016-5, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach, amending the Newport Beach Municipal Code related to certain front yard setbacks. The motion carries unanimously, 7-0.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Public comments on non-agenda items. Public comments are invited on non-agenda items generally considered to be within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes. Before speaking, please state your name for the record.
Please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor and Pro Temp Mayor and all the staff. I'm Doug Nye, the President Commander of the American Legion, 291 Newport Beach, California, 215 15th Street, Newport Beach. Some of you know me up there, and I'm a Vietnam combat veteran. But what I'm here to ask you tonight is if you would like to come to our April 18th, which is Monday. We're celebrating our 51st year of supporting the police chief, fire chiefs from Costa Mesa, Newport Beach, all the lifeguards. We give out awards and we pick up the dinner. So if you would like to come to that and be our guest and see all the men and women that are out there in the cities with you in Newport and Costa Mesa, like I say, it's our 51st year and we'd be very proud of it. Since we're the largest American Legion west of the Mississippi, or actually from Florida, in the nation, and got the only yacht club, and very proud of it, and very proud to be a part of Newport Beach. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nye. Do we have another comment? Yes.
Good evening, Mayor Dixon and members of the City Council. My name is Arthur Jeppe, and I'm a member, a longtime resident of Lido Island, a member of the congregation of St. James the Great Episcopal Church, and I'm the president of the organization Save St. James the Great. Almost a year ago, I appeared before you for the first time to discuss an outlandish situation where the Episcopal Bishop of the Los Angeles Diocese was attempting to sell the church for development of townhomes. In some sense, the situation at St. James the Great Episcopal Church has not changed. While the bishop has still not sold the church, he has locked the Episcopal congregation and community out of the church building and grounds. The church building is sitting there unlocked and unused. This, of course, is wrong on so many levels. The legal questions whether the church use restriction on St. James property is still in court. The good news, however, is that St. James the Great Episcopal congregation remains strong. On Easter Sunday, thanks to the city, we celebrated in the park across the street from the vacant church. We had more than 200 people attend with a full choir, brass music, and even the Easter Bunny. On the past 2 Sundays, again, thanks to the city, we worshiped in the community room here in City Hall, where we plan to worship for the next few weeks or months until we are back in the church. The congregation remains confident that we will someday be back in the church building. We believe the original church use restriction on the property remains in effect, and the California courts will eventually confirm this. The legal situation is somewhat complex, with 2 different cases in the courts, both of which are now in whole or part up on appeal in the Court of Appeals. If any of the council members are interested in the details, we would be more than happy to provide the information at a later date. We have been especially encouraged by the support of the local community. The Lido Island Community Association recently sent a survey to all residents of Lido Island asking whether they would prefer to see St. James the Great property remain a church as it is present or be developed into townhomes as proposed by the developer. An overwhelming majority of the respondent, 92%, favored keeping the church as a church. As always, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to bring you up to date on our situation. Also, the congregation of St. James, the Great Episcopal Church, thanks the City Council and the city in general for their support. Good evening.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Bruce Beardsley. I'm with the Corona del Mar Residents Association, and Scott Piotr talked about it earlier. We're having our foundation, not a foundation, but we're having on the 20th, a combination meeting between the Residents Association and the Business Improvement District at Sherman Gardens. And if you've never come, please come. I would really encourage everybody here and in the audience and everybody watching on TV to come down and enjoy the festivities and the information that you're going to receive by coming to this event. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Dixon and honorable City Council members for your time this evening. My name is Shayna Breslow. Our federal, state, and local authorities have abandoned their oaths of office to their constituents and have completely ignored our concerns of geoengineering programs and their impacts to our environment and public health. Our weather is being manipulated by HARP technology, ionospheric heaters, and the spraying of sulfate aerosol particulates by aircraft. As a resident of Newport Beach, I have witnessed day after day our God-given sky being destroyed by aerosol pollutants. I wake up to see the morning sun obscured by dark gray lines, the color of soot, dispersed while we sleep. These particulates settle quietly on our communities, deteriorating the air quality. Notably, when rain systems move in, the aerosols are dispersed above and through the cumulus clouds, making it nearly impossible for these clouds to hold moisture, significantly diminishing rainfall, exacerbating our drought conditions. We breathe in these pollutants. They enter our bloodstream through our lungs, impairing respiratory functions, especially for the elderly and the youth. In the last City Council meeting, I addressed the fact that these spraying programs run by our military and contracted airliners are being used for the geoengineering purpose of solar radiation management to reflect sunlight back to the ionosphere to cool the planet to remediate climate change. I provided you with documentation from reputable sources like NASA, the U.S. Air Force, Harvard, and the U.S. Accountability Office that these programs are indeed taking place. These sources list the toxic metals applied in these programs, namely aluminum, barium, strontium, and lithium. Public Law 105/85, U.S. Code Title 50, Chapter 32, signed in 1997, allows the Department of Defense to test biological and chemical weapons if the informed consent was obtained from each American in advance of the testing. We never received notice of the testing, nor did we give our consent. I implore you to immediately begin an investigation into the legality of these programs and release a public statement alerting your constituents of the long-term health implications of exposure to these toxic nanoparticulates sprayed on us. As many others have done, I would encourage you to get your own blood, soil, or rainwater tested for these metals, and you will find them to be well beyond EPA standards. With chronic respiratory disease being the third leading cause of death now in the U.S., what are your next steps in halting the aerosol spraying to protect the health of your constituents? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Good evening, Mayor Dixon and other council members. My name is Anthony Barraza, and I'm a resident of the Dover Village condo complex on Dover Drive from Cromwell to Buckingham. There recently was an addition to a bike lane in front of the complex, and I just want to know that just to let you know that there was no notification that I recall to the residents or to the actual complex council members. As of today, there is no current postings, or it's not clearly identified to the residents of the complex for not only the residents but actually for their guests. This has eliminated approximately hundreds of feet of possible parking for these 38 residents that live in this area. Currently, there are markings of fire extinguishers that extend about approximately 15 to 20 feet. So if there's markings for the fire extinguishers or actual monitoring of that safety, why couldn't they extend the actual red lines for the parking in this area? The speed limit in the residential area is 35 miles an hour. There's a school right up the street, which eliminates it down to 25. Now that there is this bike lane, it seems that the cars are actually traveling faster because there's no cars parked on the street, whereas there was a couple weeks ago. Just to let you know that Dover Drive has been under construction the last 2 years. I've been a resident of this area for the last 3 years, and it seems like there's been no parking within this vicinity because it's either been in construction and now because of the bike lane. Lastly, I just want to make the point that if you go one major street over to Irvine Boulevard, there is a bike lane, and multiple cars, residents do park on that, except between the times of 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. So my question to council is, if there is going to be a bike lane which violates code 21211B CVC that I recently did get a ticket for from the Newport Police Department, that it can be clearly identified for not only myself but my guests that are attending my home and the other residents in the complex. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Please come forward.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Hoffman, and thank you for allowing us to speak.
I do want to say one thing I didn't plan to say. The young lady that just spoke about geoengineering and about climate engineering, this is 100% true, and it's gaining growing awareness. Geoengineering Watch, if you're not familiar with this website, it's had close to 22 million hits and visits because people are growing, and all you have to do is look up. That's not condensation. Just start looking up and watch the sky and watch what you're breathing. It's horrific, and it's destroying the planet. That's not why I'm here. So why I'm here tonight is because I'm here to express that on behalf of a group of over 2,700 people, and this is also growing, to support Orange County vector control. We do not support aerial spraying of pesticides. It's dangerous, it's harmful. And the elements being used are sumithrin, palathrin, and it's combined with PBO, which increases potency and compromises the human body's ability to detoxify the pesticide. It's particularly harmful to pregnant women and their unborn children, and it compromises the immune system, chemically sensitive people, which I am, young children and children with respiratory problems such as asthma. It falls, it goes into our soils, into our groundwaters. There's lasting damage here. Last September, when they suddenly sprayed, didn't give the people enough warning, only a couple of days. My friend who has organic gardens all in her backyard, we went feverishly and spent hours covering this. We did not have enough time to even do that. It was horrible. We have an organic garden. The reason we do that is to not have pesticides. We go to this tremendous amount of trouble to not have pesticides, and they're just going to spray over it and it's going to come on down. It's just not a good idea. It's very harmful. So we strongly oppose the spraying, and if they proceed with that, at least a good amount of warning for people and informed consent. Thank you.
Excuse me, are you a resident of Newport Beach?
No,
Okay.
I'm not, but they are targeting all over Orange County, and I believe there's somebody, isn't there somebody here he'll be?
Well, Mr. Kiff, do you want to comment on?
Scott Piotr, yes. Yeah, he's on the vector control board, so I feel like he needs to hear these concerns.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And Mr. Kiff, is there about spraying in Newport Beach?
So just for the folks at home, there are no plans by the Vector Control District to aerial spray in our community that we know of. And Mr. Piotr may know more, but they do work in the Big Canyon area with low-level spraying, because that's where an awful lot of mosquito larvae there in those ponds there near the Newport Bay.
All right, thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
So yeah, this was for his consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? And if there are any other comments on non-agenda items, please come forward. Thank you. Oh, just a second. Oh, she's, yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I'm also here to speak specifically to address Mr. Piotr about...
Could you identify yourself, please?
My name is Maureen Homan, and he's our representative, Newport Beach representative to Vector Control. And I have some handouts that's going around. I also have handouts for anybody in the public that would like a copy as well before we leave. Last September, Vector Control announced an emergency operation to perform aerial spraying of Duet pesticide over selected targeted towns in Orange County. After enormous public outcry, this unprecedented event was canceled. Almost 3,000 residents in Orange County became aware and informed overnight and formed an instant group on Facebook as we scrambled to try to figure out why such extreme measures were being taken in Southern California and why we weren't given enough notice to have our say. It made no sense, and we did not see the emergency. There is no epidemic of disease with less than 100 people of all of 2015 out of a population of 3 million people getting West Nile virus. We question this call for an emergency. On April 21st, This coming April 21st, Vector Control will vote to change the rules to not inform the public of if another emergency is called by Vector Control in the future. We deserve informed consent. It's unconscionable to be sprayed with a pesticide over our houses, and no, I don't live in Newport Beach, but I do live in an area that would be sprayed. Duet is the pesticide of choice for this spraying. On the product label, with the diluted amount, it says that it's highly toxic to bees and fish. It's wrong to spray the public without informed consent, like I said, but it's also wrong to kill off our bees and our fish. Makes no sense. And by the way, Duet literature says that this petroleum-based spray lasts for 24 hours. When we talked to Vector Control, they said, well, it'll dissipate and we're going to do it at night and the bees will be in their hives. Well, the bees don't know to stay in their hives for 24 hours. Who's going to protect those? We already have a dwindling population of bees. This is insane. And also for the people who have fish ponds, how do they know to cover their fish or pull their fish out? Or even the ones that aren't even notified, they'll just have fish being dead. Anyways, that's the end of my comments.
All right, thank you very much. Any other comments on non-agenda items?
Mayor Dixon and members of the council, my name again is Jim Mosier, and returning to items more directly within your control, I wanted to remind you that at your February 9th meeting, 5 of you voted to have a discussion about televising the city's planning commission meetings. But when that item came back on February 23rd, to the amazement of the public and despite unanimous urging to do it from the audience, 3 of those 5 voted against even trying that as an experiment. To me, having the cameras that the public paid good money for sit idle in this room during the meetings held here is a complete waste. So tonight, I wanted to suggest some reasons that those of you who voted no might want to change your positions. One of you, I remember, thought that the existence of an accurate video record could create liability for the city, and another said that city council members might watch and call and try to influence the planning commissioners. Well, both of those reasons to vote no have since vanished because, as you may well know, given the importance of access to public meetings, the private Stop Polluting Our Newport organization has taken upon itself, at its own expense, to do what you refused. So anyone, including litigious lawyers or curious council members, can now Google Newport Beach Planning Commission YouTube videos and can find them. They're just of lower quality than what the city itself could so easily produce. Other of those who voted no thought that the presence of cameras would either embarrass the commissioners or make them grandstand. Well, as someone who has attended many dozens of planning commission meetings that were not video recorded, I can assure you that what you see on YouTube is pretty much what you saw before. And since the city's own cameras are less obtrusive than the Spawn one, I think they would have even less effect. Finally, several of you thought that providing easy access to meetings over the internet would discourage people from showing up to listen or express their views in person. I can assure you that the actual effect is the opposite. The existence of video stimulates interest in government rather than suppressing it, and they allow those who haven't come before to know what to expect. Last Thursday's Planning Commission meeting had this room, unlike the present meeting, completely packed. There was not a single seat vacant, and there were dozens of people standing in the aisles, as you can see on YouTube. So that reason is also invalid. I urge you to put the matter of televising the Planning Commission and the other city meetings back on the agenda, and this time, please have the courtesy to ask the Planning Commission what they think before you decide no. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on non-agenda items? All right, seeing none, we'll come back to the council for oral reports on committee activities. Mr. Piotr?
Well, I don't mind starting, since there were items that came up on vector control. And if the council likes, we can have vector control come and make a presentation on aerial spraying. They're doing town halls throughout the county on it. I did vote for the maximum amount of notice as possible. One of the things that is different maybe for Orange County, much to, to vector control chagrin, is there were more deaths due to West Nile virus in Orange County than any other place in the United States last year. So they are very, very cautious about it. Obviously, if everybody in their backyards took care of all standing water and all those things that attract mosquitoes and breeding, you wouldn't have to do these issues. And the speakers are right that there's just a small area that is predominant as far as a problem area. So it's not that they're going to be spraying Newport Beach, not spraying all of Orange County. They're spraying targeted areas in 1 or 2 block radiuses, Santa Ana, Anaheim, Tustin, some of the areas around the Santa Ana River. There's a lot of, believe it or not, the drought has created more of a problem than less of a problem, because normally you get enough water going through things like storm drains to flush them out and keep them from being mosquito breeders, but because you don't, you're getting standing water in the storm drains and you're getting more mosquito breeding even in the public infrastructure like that. So if the council likes from a vector control standpoint, we can come and have a presentation at a study session if you like. The aerial spraying, I believe that the final verdict from the board was there'd be a minimum of 4 days notice before any aerial spraying is done. Exactly how the public's notified, it would probably rely on the press to get the issue out. You're not going to get postcards in the mail or phone calls or texts, but the Vector Control website has information so that if you want to sign up there, you can. But again, there has not been any proposed aerial spraying for any of Newport Beach, though. Thank you.
Mr. Duffield. Mayor Pro Tem.
I just want to discuss quickly response to Mr. Mosier's concerns, because I understand it. It seems as if maybe the council does not support transparency, but that's why we have open meetings. And the constitutional right to a public and speedy trial, based essentially in a reaction to the Star Chamber and other such abuses of the judiciary, is important. And the person has a right to have a public and non-politicized trial. Believe it or not, the petitioner who has a plan in front of us for development also has rights. And those rights we hope to not be politicized and to take in the legitimate matter and have it be judicial. So although some planning commissioners or community members may want it to be televised, we seek to avoid politicizing anyone's rights, but it is still open, which is a great part of our democracy. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Solage.
Nothing.
Mr. Curry. Mr. Petros.
Madam Mayor, on March 28th, we had a very engaging aviation committee. There was robust discussion on much of the takeoff patterns around John Wayne Airport. In particular, there was discussion on the 2 items that this council acted upon to move forward with, and we reported back to the aviation committee that those projects and proposals are underway. I do want to let the community know, and those that were present, that I did misspeak, that there was one of those proposals for council consideration of an emissions or air quality study that I was incorrect in suggesting we had taken up, that hadn't been taken up. So I think that the city manager will be agendizing the notion of whether or not this council wants to expend the resources on a air quality study related to aircraft emissions at some time in the future. There is still uncertainty about the rollout of the FAA's new plans for the airport takeoffs. We believe it may be coming online sometime within a year's time, and at that time we'll reevaluate and reassess the takeoffs as they affect Dover Shores and some of our other communities. But a very well-attended and well-attended meeting with a very good discussion.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Let's move into a public hearing. Item number 18, modifications to the Back Bay Landing Project located at 300 East Coast Highway. And staff, do we have a report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Dixon, members of the council. I'm Kim Brandt, Community Development Director, and this is a project that the council has previously reviewed and approved back in February of 2014. It went on to the Coastal Commission. They reviewed our proposed amendments to our coastal land use plan. They had what we call suggested modifications. So we are back to you to review the suggested modifications and Senior Planner Jaime Murillo will make a presentation.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor. I'm going to recuse myself on this. I have a potential business relationship with the...
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. As you can see on the slide here, the project is located adjacent to the Upper Newport Bay at the northwesterly corner of East Coast Highway and Bayside Drive. The property is primarily developed as a private marina. However, the landside portion of the project is underutilized and is primarily used as marina parking as well as RV and boat storage. The project site is also adjacent to a large mobile home park, which the property owner and applicant also has an ownership interest in. Ultimately, the applicant desires to redevelop the landside portion of the project for a future mixed-use waterfront development that would include 49 residential units, innovative 32,500 square foot enclosed boat storage facility, as well as approximately 61,500 square feet of visitor serving and marine-related uses such as restaurants, retail, office, and recreational type uses. However, because the city's land use documents currently designate the landside portion of the project for recreational marine commercial uses only and prohibit residential uses, development of the site would require a number of land use amendments to the city's land use documents. Therefore, due to the complexity of the applications, the applicant has decided to break up their applications into two stages of approvals due to the uncertainty at the time with city approval and the Coastal Commission approval of the land use change. So that first stage of approval, which we have been referring to as the legislative approvals, that's primarily the project that's before us today, and that includes a general plan amendment and coastal land use plan amendment to change the land use designation of the site to one that allows residential development in a mixed-use configuration. The legislative approvals also included a code amendment and the preparation and adoption of a planned community development plan, which established the zoning regulations that would guide and regulate future development of the site. The applicant also prepared a lot line adjustment. Since they own both the mobile home park and the project site, there was an opportunity to make a small adjustment that would allow for enhanced project driveway and access to the site. And lastly, a traffic study was approved that fully analyzed the potential traffic impacts associated with full development of the site. But again, that's what comprises the current proposed project. Once the legislative approvals are approved by the city and finalized by the Coastal Commission, the applicant will then proceed with the second stage of approvals, which is the site development approval stage, and process a coastal development permit. And that's when we'll see the actual design of the project site and the architectural design and specifics of the project. And that'll be brought back to the city in the future. Get a little background with the legislative approvals. As Kim mentioned, the City Council approved the legislative approvals in February of 2014, as well as certified an environmental impact report that was prepared for the project. However, because the California Coastal Commission does maintain jurisdiction over the city's coastal land use plan, the coastal land use plan amendment that was approved by the city also required approval by the Coastal Commission, and all other related city approvals were contingent upon their approval. The California Coastal Commission did review the project and the coastal land use plan amendment in December of 2015. However, they made a number of suggested modifications. And just for clarification, although it is termed as suggested modifications, these are required modifications that the city is required to accept, otherwise the project will not be approved. Therefore, their approval is pending city approval and acceptance of those modifications. Staff has worked with the applicant to make those modifications to his prior approvals, and the Planning Commission did review and recommend approval of those modifications at their March 17th meeting. So for clarification, before you tonight are a number of actions. One is acceptance of the Coastal Commission's suggested modifications. A second is modification of the previous legislative approvals for consistency with the Coastal Commission changes, and that primarily affects the general plan, the Coastal Land Use Plan, the Code Amendment, and the Planned Community Development Plan. And lastly, because due to the time that has occurred from the initial application, the property owner had the opportunity to acquire an additional mobile home unit within the mobile home park, and is proposing a refined or revised lot line adjustment that would further improve site circulation within the mobile home park itself, but also for access to the project site. And the time is appropriate now, since we're doing the modifications to the land use documents, we can amend or revise the land use boundaries consistent with the final lot line adjustment boundaries. So just for clarification, this is an area of the project site. The overall project site consists of approximately 31 acres, as shown in the yellow shading. The area in green was a previous lot line adjustment area that was approved, and the area in blue is the additional lot line adjustment being proposed today. As far as development, the areas shaded in orange is what would primarily be developed in the future. This is a blow-up of the actual lot line adjustment area, and it just shows a comparison between the previous lot line adjustment shown in pink and the additional area shown in the blue hatching. And it's a small change, increasing the lot line adjustment area from 0.304 acres to 0.387 acres. Specifically, the Coastal Commission changes or suggested modifications to the Coastal Land Use Plan Amendment were that they wanted the city-approved mixed-use horizontal designation changed to a mixed-use water-related designation. This exhibit illustrates the location of the portions of the project site that would be designated for mixed-use water-related. The primary differences is that the mixed-use water-related designation prioritizes coastal-dependent and related uses with an emphasis on coastal-dependent uses near the bayfront. But the biggest change is that the mixed-use water-related designation prohibits freestanding residential and only allows residential in a mixed-use configuration with residential located above ground floor commercial uses. They also requested that the portion of the bayfront site adjacent to the mobile home remain designated for recreational and marine commercial uses. And just for clarification, the land use boundaries now would be adjusted consistent with the currently proposed lot line adjustment. In addition, the Coastal Commission eliminated an exception that the city had approved to the shoreline height limitation, which was a 35-foot height limitation. The previous approved amendment would have allowed for a 65-foot tall public viewing tower. However, the Coastal Commission was concerned with precedents that might set, as well as concerns that it didn't fit in with the surrounding area. And so that was eliminated from the amendment. They also required the preparation of a hazards assessment and sea level rise and shoreline management plan to be prepared in conjunction with the future development of the site to ensure that the development takes into account adaptive measures for coastal hazards and sea level rise, as well as to assist with the planning of the future bulkheads. And I think the last significant change they made was they required enhanced coastal access above and beyond what the city previously required, which was a public bayfront walkway around the mixed-use portion of the site. The Coastal Commission required that that walkway, as shown in the red arrow here, be expanded around the existing mobile home site, connecting to the Newport Dunes recreational trail. Since we are making the Coastal Land Use Plan amendment changes, it's recommended that we also modify the previously approved general plan amendment for consistency with the Coastal Land Use Plan change, which primarily is just changing the portion of the site from mixed use horizontal to mixed use water related. I also want to point out that no other change to density or intensity would result as a result of this amendment. and the general plan amendment would adjust the boundaries consistent with the currently proposed revised lot line adjustment. The previously approved zoning code amendment, which expanded the planned community zoning boundaries, is also being modified, again, just to incorporate the revised lot line adjustment area shown in the cloud here. And the last approval is the it's related to the planned community development plan. And again, this is the document that would essentially govern land use and development of the site, establishes the zoning regulations such as setbacks, building height, design for the walkway and minimum open space, and etc. It also provides a vision for the land uses of the site and establishes specific design guidelines for how the city intends the site to be redeveloped in the future. The development plan breaks up the project into 5 distinct planning areas. Planning Area 1 is the primary mixed-use project area. Planning Area 2 is the area located south of the Coast Highway Bridge, and that is designated for recreational marine commercial use. Planning Area 3, which was originally intended to stay as a private marina access, and is also the subject of the Coastal Commission modification to open that up to public access. Planning Area 4 would be developed primarily for marina and mobile home park storage and additional guest parking. And Planning Area 5 would remain as the marina, private marina, and no additional development would be allowed within the open space areas. This is an exhibit from the previously approved planned community development plan. This was the original concept for development of the site. And as you can see, this is the location of the freestanding residential that was originally proposed. The boat storage was going to be located behind the freestanding residential, away from the bayfront edge. Parking is intended to be primarily located within a parking structure that would be wrapped around with residential and retail uses. At the corner of Bayside Drive and East Coast Highway, the intent is to have a public plaza with surrounding retail and restaurant type uses. And this was the location of the previously proposed public view tower. So for consistency with the Coastal Commission modifications, the planned community development plan and exhibits have been revised to eliminate the freestanding residential, eliminate the view tower, include additional standards for the enhanced public bayfront trail. It incorporates requirements for the preparation of a sea level rise and shoreline management and hazard plans required by the Coastal Commission. And all exhibits were revised for consistency. In addition, the applicant has taken the opportunity to revise the architectural theme. The originally adopted plan required kind of a firm coastal Mediterranean theme. However, due to just changing trends and to allow for increased flexibility, the architectural theme was lightened up a bit to be more just coastal influence, but encourages or actually requires higher quality architectural treatment with an emphasis on greater interaction with the public open spaces. And lastly, since the original adoption of this plan, we've learned that the Orange County Sanitation District is currently reviewing and investigating the opportunity to rebuild the existing pump station located within the project site. And to provide increased flexibility, the document is being revised to allow for the pump station to be relocated anywhere within Planning Area 1, but also Planning Area 2, again, just for greater flexibility. This is the revised exhibit and revised conceptual plan that's part of the proposed amendments. I think the biggest change here that you can see is that the freestanding residential has been eliminated from the western bayfront edge, consistent with the Coastal Commission modifications. A public view tower has been placed in its place. The boat storage, again, now has access to that western bayfront edge. The development plan also in the exhibit includes increased public access and views from Coast Highway. The corner of the project site remains relatively the same with a retail restaurant plaza. And lastly, you can see in the revised conceptual plan a more realistic look of how the public Bayfront Trail may be developed. This exhibit here basically compares the previous conceptual driveway design with the revised conceptual driveway design, and it really shows the benefit of the currently proposed lot line adjustment. With that lot line adjustment, they're able to enhance the site circulation within the mobile home park, but more importantly within the project site. And lastly, I just want to state that, as I mentioned, the EIR was certified by the City Council in February 2014 to ensure that these proposed modifications don't result in any new or substantially greater impacts than what was previously analyzed. City staff had an addendum prepared to analyze those project modifications, and the conclusion of the addendum is that there's no change in the significant conclusions of the certified EIR. And so with that, this concludes my recommendation or my presentation. The next steps, if the City Council adopts these changes, is we'll submit the final resolution to the Coastal Commission for their final approval. At that point, the applicant will then proceed with their site development review application. And that concludes my presentation. The applicant and property owner are in attendance tonight and available for questions, as well as our environmental consultant, David Kirk.
Thank you, Mr. Merrill. Any questions from council before we put it out to public? No? All right, let's open it up for public comment, please.
Madam Mayor, is the applicant here to speak?
Yes.
And I don't know, is there a way to get rid of this annoying static?
We need to work. I know
with
it's
no
very
success.
annoying. We've got a short. We need to work on it in between meetings. And I promise to do so.
Yes, sir. Please proceed.
Madam Mayor.
Vector control is here, I guess.
Works on this one too, I guess. Madam Mayor, council members, I'm John Erskine, Land Use Counsel for the applicant. We don't have any formal presentation. With us tonight is the project manager, Gordon Craig, and the property owner, Michael Gelfand, and also Ian Adam from Fusco Engineering. So we're prepared to stand by the excellent staff report that Jaime did. Your staff has been, really a delight to work with, been very diligent and cooperative, and we really are excited about this milestone and getting back to the Coastal Commission for confirmation of the council's modifications.
All right, thank you. Any other comments from the public? Please come forward.
Mayor Dixon and members of the council, my name is Jim Mosier. As you heard, what you're being asked to approve tonight is a planning structure in which a project could be developed. I think it's fair to say most of the public who had comment about this has commented at the earlier meetings, such as before the Planning Commission. And I think I could summarize their concerns as not only the perennial one about traffic, which we have about all new development in Newport Beach, but also a concern about the sizable impact that the project that could be developed within the structure will have. The wall of buildings that you see in the slide before you in the upper left corner, which is the corner of Coast Highway and Bayside Drive, which will significantly alter the views that the public has for many years enjoyed driving along there, walking along there, or whatever, of the Castaways Bluffs. Those are largely going to be lost to this project. And the other very troublesome thing is the applicant's professed need, which would be allowed possibly under this planning structure, to change the current sandy beaches that are bordering the area that's going to be developed with a vertical concrete bulkhead wall that would be similar to the unsightly thing that we see in front of the city's own Lower Castaways Park. And just expressing my own opinion, I think that the city would be much better off with the sandy beaches it has there now than with this new wall, which the Coastal Commission may or may not allow when the actual project is presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public?
Madam Mayor and council members, Dick Hoagland, chairman of the Bayside Improvement Committee. We've made presentations to the city before. We've been working with the developer for 4 or 5 years now on this project. We represent the homeowners and residents of Bayside Village. We were at the Coastal Commission hearing. We gave a fairly lengthy presentation as to why we didn't believe the public access in front of our homes was applicable to this area, primarily because of the tremendous amount of public access that already exists in this area. Nevertheless, we were obviously overruled, and now we're going to be working with the developer, and I assume the city, because we're not developers, we don't really understand the process very well, but we do want to find out how public access is going to be permitted in front of these homes. You've heard of NIMBY, I'm sure. Well, in our case, it's NIMVR, where it's not in my living room. There is no setback to our homes. We sit right on this boardwalk. So the developers talked about some kind of designation between our homes and the actual path. The Coastal Commission actually overruled the city in saying the city was willing to give the boardwalk to the beach, which is a private beach. Coastal Commission says, no, we want to go around, under, through, or somehow or another they want access across that beach. I think the developer talked to the Coastal Commission and got some approval to take some kind of a pier out into the bay, go around the beach, and then connect the pier back into the other side. Otherwise, there's no connection between one side of that walkway and the other side, if any of you have come down to see what we're talking about. So I see the picture. They got people on bicycles, dogs, you name it. I hope the city will work with us, the residents, in determining how that boardwalk is going to be used, what hours, whether there's skateboards, bicycles, or what's going to be used. It's a fairly short period, or it's probably, I don't know, 500-600 yards of public access, and then around the beach on some kind of a pier. So it's important for the residents to understand, and I hope the city would work with us and the developer to make sure that whatever kind of public access is given in front of our homes does not destroy the use of our homes. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Please come forward. Seeing none, let's bring it back to the council. Mr. Selich.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've worked with the Back Bay Landing folks, Mr. Gelfin, Mr. Erskine, and Gordon, along with the homeowners for the last 4 or 5 years on this project. And I want to compliment both the residents and Back Bay Landing on working together to put this project together. It's obvious that it's a good project. The Coastal Commission really made very minimal modifications to it. I know, Dick, that you and some of the others are not happy that the trail access along the waterfront is going to be maintained, but I can assure you that I've talked with the project applicant, and they're going to work very hard with us and to come up with the way to do this in a way that will provide minimal impact to the residents there. So I think it's a good project, and with that, I'd like to move approval on the staff recommended action items B through G.
Second.
Any other comments from the council? No? All right. We'll call for the vote.
Prior to reading the vote, I'll read the ordinance titles for ordinance number 2016-7, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach approving revised code amendment number CA 2013-009 for the planned community known as Back Bay Landing, and ordinance number 2016-8, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach approving revised planned community development plan adoption number PC 2011-001 for the planned community known as Back Bay Landing. The motion carries unanimously 6-0.
All right, we'll move on to current business. Item number 19, creation of the Mayor's Blue Ribbon Committee on Local Political Reform. And Mr. Kiff, or Mr. Harp.
I'll go ahead and
Thank
take
you.
this one. So at the last city council meeting, the city council directed our office to return with an agenda item for the formation of a committee to study the need for local political reform as well as potential reform measures. I think the staff report and the accompanying resolution do a good job of detailing what that would look at as far as the composition of the committee as well as the scope of work that they'd be tasked to do. However, I'd go into a more detailed report if you'd like.
All right, any comments from council before we go out to the public? Mr. Curry, did you want to comment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is an idea that combines the ideas that I brought forward with your idea for the Citizens Committee. I'm hopeful that we are able to move forward expeditiously with this, and I look forward to it. I encourage those in the community who may have an interest in the subject of political reform and in fixing some of the technical loopholes that have been identified in the law to apply and perhaps serve on this working group. It shouldn't be a long process, but I think it'll be a very productive process and one that helps preserve and protect the integrity of our election process.
Thank you. Any other council comments? Oh, excuse me. I don't have, oh, Mr. Petros.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too want to applaud both Councilmember Curry and you, Madam Mayor, for the efforts that you've put into this and support it wholeheartedly. I would just make one observation that in the formation of the committee, the appointments are actually left to one individual, the mayor, with the ultimate approval of and consent of the council. That, to me, is a little bit different than every other committee that I'm aware of that we create. And I just wonder if there is a willingness to entertain the notion that instead of it be selected by the mayor, that this go through our regular process of through the nominating committee. We do have that scheduled for mid-May. And this might be an opportunity to continue along with the way that we conduct business through a regular committee process.
All right, thank you. Any other comments from the council? Do I see?
You're going to open it to the public first.
Oh, yes, yes. And then we'll
I'll
come
wait
back.
till after that.
All right. Any comments from the public? Please come forward.
Mayor Dixon and members of the council, my name is Jim Mosier. First, I would like to say I support forming a committee to explore options for election reform in Newport Beach. I would, however, question whether the committee's discussion should be dominated by the mayor and another council member. This is a matter in which the public in general and those who have run unsuccessfully for office may have different views from those like you who have run successfully. I think the result would be better if we had a purely citizens advisory committee that formulated a recommendation based on their own intuition, combined with the testimony from candidates both successful and unsuccessful. And then as politically successful people, the 7 of you would be on an equal footing to debate and modify whatever the committee's recommendation might be. I think that would be a better process. More importantly, whoever the committee consists of, I think its scope is too limited. At least some of the proposals the committee is being asked to explore involve reining in the amount of money needed to compete for office in this city. One of the simplest ways to reduce election costs is to reduce the number of voters a candidate has to reach out to. As you know, the Newport Beach City Charter imposes on us a system called from-district elections, in which candidates have to be from a district but have to run citywide. Changing that to by-district elections, as many other cities are doing for other reasons, would reduce the number of voters that a candidate has to make themselves known to from 60,000 down to around 8,000, which would greatly reduce the campaign costs. Another option that deserves exploration is what is called cumulative voting. In that system, all candidates would continue to run citywide, but without a requirement to be a resident from a particular district, maintaining our citywide community cohesiveness. And instead of a single vote, each elector would be given as many votes as there are open seats. The voters could spread their votes around or put them all on a single candidate. This proposal may seem rather different from what you've heard in the past, but it would allow the various interest groups in our city to each have a representative on the council and at much reduced cost, because a candidate could win by being strongly popular with a relatively small segment of the community. I think district-based elections and cumulative voting would both be better than what we have now, and they should be on the table as potential political reforms in Newport Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? No? Let's bring it forward.
Madam Mayor, I'll move the staff recommendation. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Sellers.
Thank you. Well, I'm not going to support this, and I was opposed to even putting it on the agenda. And I've got 4 reasons. I've thought a lot about this thing. And first of all, no one's contacted me demanding that we do something like this. I haven't heard any complaints about the election process or anything like that. No one's contacted me on it. I've had a few people complain about the results, but you know, not about the process and about what happened there. I think it's going to take a valuable staff time that we can be more productive in using it for other things we're trying to get done in the city. I think it's bad timing to do this in election year. If it really was a problem after the last election, why didn't we bring it up last year and do it last year in between election cycles? To do it during an election year just doesn't seem to me to be good timing. And so I think it would be better just to table this item, and you know, if there's problems or perceived problems in the election this fall, then take it up with the new council after the election. But to do it now just seems to be not in our best interest. So I'm not going to support the item.
Mr. Curry.
I'm sorry, I second that motion.
Thank you.
Was that a motion, Mr. Sellers?
Yeah, I'll move that we not approve the item.
And I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Curry.
Well, the answer to the question of what is the issue that we have now that we didn't have before the last election is we had a case where Mr. Piata received excess contributions as indicated by his own financial reports. And the city attorney determined that the way, because of a nuance in the way the law was written, that he lacked the authority to enforce the city's own ordinances. That's a technical change. Frankly, I don't know that we need a big committee to do that, but the mayor wants to have one, and that's okay. But that's something we need to fix because we've identified the fact that the law that all of us follow as candidates, or should follow, is not enforceable. The second issue, as we saw in the last campaign, a way in which people were able to use the slate mail rules, not to have independent expenditures, but to get around the rules and to have people give not a little bit more, like $50 more than the limit, but to give $10,000 and $25,000 and $50,000 to elect candidates in a way that was clearly coordinated and violates the spirit of the campaign law, and that needs to be fixed. We didn't have an issue before the last election with members of the council ourselves raising money 3 years in advance of the election, but we saw that in 2015. That's what we're addressing here. And then we have the issue of whether or not lobbyists ought to register or not so that we know who's whispering in our ear who their other clients are. We don't even know when our campaign consultant calls us and says, you know, vote yes on this, it's a good thing, vote no on this, it's a bad thing, whether or not that person's being paid by somebody else to give us that message. And the public has the right to know because we've got some very big and controversial projects coming up, some of which are represented by people who have been very active in the political campaigns for all of us, including myself. And that's, by the way, a practice that's commonly used in Orange County, in the state of California, in Washington, D.C., at the city of Los Angeles, at the LAMTA, and scores of other agencies. So I think in the interest of transparency, in the interest of having our laws work so that everybody understands what they are and can follow them, and that they can be enforced, we should move forward with this idea. So I'll make an alternate motion to support the staff recommendation.
I'll second that.
As a point of order, I believe you made the original motion, correct?
No, I did.
Selich, you made the first motion?
I did.
Do you want to speak first?
Well, is Mr. Piata, no? Well, if we have a motion on the, oh, your name's up there, excuse me.
Sure, I'll speak. You know, it's interesting how You know, all of these items that have been talked about so far, that particularly Mr. Curry's brought up, deal with free speech issues. And, you know, he's trying to equate that the more money that you have, that you can get elected, as though our voters can be bought. When in reality, money is just a tool to get your message out. And it's the message that sells the candidate and whom I think the election and the voters use to vote for. And Keith, they didn't like your message last time, and we won. And so now you want to change the rules because evidently you don't like our message getting out. That's how it comes across to me. It comes across as sour grapes, that you want to shut us up, and by doing that, that you would be more competitive in the voter box. I think an alternative would be is to get rid of all campaign contribution limits and have immediate reporting and let the voters decide, who I think are very intelligent in this city, whether or not they like the fact that you received X dollars from somebody, as to whether or not they think that you would then not be a good candidate or a good council member. You know, you're over-regulating us, you're stifling free speech. I think the committee is, you know, it certainly, like Mr. Selich said, should not happen during the election cycle, because then it becomes politicized rather than having it be, you know, objective. I think even Mr. Mosier's comment that it should be a citizen committee only would be more legit. I think you ought to table it till after the election and let the new council decide whether they want to hear it. Let the staff bring it back sometime in January, and we can talk about it.
Mr. Mulder, or Mayor Pro Tem Mulder.
I like the results of the election, Mr. Selich, but I understand where you're coming from, and I'm actually on the same page as you. In this recent election that's coming up, I equate it to basically a Super Bowl or a championship game, and you can't change the rules postseason because you don't like to make it to the playoffs. It's just not right. You can do it in the off season, though, so I'll be supporting doing it in the off season, and I think that's the beauty of democracy. Most of the lobbyist dollars went to the old guard, and we won. So I really don't buy the notion that the money somehow was just for us. I remember, you know, calling people, and it was pretty clear. I even had people take off my invitation because they were afraid of the old guard inflicting retribution for supporting me. So I'm proud of democracy, proud of the city for doing the right thing, and I will help do the right thing in the off season, and I will support looking at these measures again objectively without vindication. Thank you.
Mr. Curry.
Well, when we talk about playing by the rules, let's understand that the rule is that the campaign limit is $1,100 per person as a contribution. That rule, the city attorney has determined, can't be enforced, which is why we need to make a technical change to fix that in this next election cycle before all of the people who violate it think they can violate it with impunity, and then you have to go to the district attorney or the attorney general or somebody else to enforce a municipal ordinance. We simply have a loophole here that needs to be fixed. Same thing applies to the slate mail rules. And we're not going to change, by the way. None of this is designed to change the results of the last election. That's been done. And frankly, the people who abuse these loopholes the next time are likely to be some of your opponents. The issue here is whether we have an election system that has got integrity to it. Now, if you read carefully Mike Schroeder's op-ed, who was the front man for Dave Ellis when he wrote the story, his idea of having the mayor appoint a committee and then having this be delayed past the election is simply an Ellis strategy. And let's all be clear when we vote on this what it is, the Dave Ellis strategy for getting past this election so they can continue to abuse the law. And if people want to vote for that, that's going to be the issue in this election in the fall. Our abdication of our responsibility to have fair elections with information that the people can find in a transparent way, and then the hidden hand of Dave Ellis among the other projects he's working on to try and stop this decision here tonight. So if we want to vote on that, that'll be the issue for this election coming up.
Let's call for the vote on Mr. Curry's motion, and I just will say that I support the concept of election reform and looking at ways we can improve, because I don't think these rules have been looked at for quite a number of years, but I will vote against the motion because I would like to continue this until after the election. I think to politicize this matter, the electioneering, just listening to the comments, it's all about kind of score settling and payback, and I just really, this is a very highly vitriolic, emotional election year on all levels. I would just like to separate it and be deliberative with a new council to look at this after the first of the year, just as Mayor Pro Tem Muldoon said, and an off-election year, an off-season year, get dispassionate, unemotional review of what our election and lobbying laws are. So I'll call the vote on Mr. Curry's motion.
Yeah, just for clarification, you're
Yes.
voting on the substitute motion to go with staff's recommendations.
With council members Piotr Duffield, Dixon, not Petros, my apologies, Muldoon, and Selich voting no, the motion fails 2-5.
And so now we will vote on Mr. Selich's motion.
Original motion
Do you want to restate that, please?
to continue to disapprove the item.
No, I think it was to table it.
Yeah, let me
Table,
clarify that. It
okay.
was to table it till after the election.
Yes.
To table till after
Correct.
the election. Okay.
All right, let's vote.
With council members Curry and Petros voting no, the motion carries 5-2.
All right, Madam Clerk?
Motion for reconsideration, a motion to reconsider the vote on any action taken by the city council, either this meeting or the previous meeting, may be made only by one of the council members who voted with the prevailing side.
Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.